First guest is Los Angeles resident Adena Halpern. She's the author of 3 books, and she has sold the movie rights to her first novel, The 10 Best Days of My Life, to 20th Century Fox, which will star Amy Adams. We will be talking about her new novel called 29, from Touchstone Books, a Simon & Schuster paperback original. Adena, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, and you're a neighbor of ours. As I said, you're in L.A., so we're not so far from you, so I feel like you're in our backyard. Well, let's get into it. First of all, give a brief overview of the story.
On 2 levels, 29 is, the frothy part is about a 75-year-old woman who has regrets in her life, and on her 75th birthday, she makes a wish on her candles to become 29 again for a day. And she wakes up in the morning, and lo and behold, her dream comes true. And she spends the day with her 25-year-old granddaughter doing all of the things she's always dreamed of doing. So that's it on a fun, frothy level. And another level, though, it's really about 3 generations of women, a 25-year-old girl, a 55-year-old mother, and a 75-year-old grandmother, and their relationships between one another.
Well, it's a fun idea, and what kind of research did you do in writing this novel?
Well, the thing is, I really wanted to get the 75-year-old woman of today. I didn't want to have that cliched granny glasses, gray hair, sitting on a rocking chair on her front porch. I wanted to know who the 75-year-old woman of today was. So I interviewed a lot of women around that age to see, what they were like and what their dreams were like, and how they lived their lives and what regrets they might have had. Or, on an even basic level, if they could change things, if they could go back in time, what would they do? And, I got a lot of fun answers. They would, want to see their eyes without crow's feet, or, the double neck, or, something like that. But, on a more serious level, some of them told me very, very honest things, like, I never would have married my husband 50 years ago, or I would have gotten a job, or I would have gone to college and gotten an education. So a lot of varied answers that really gave me a nice rounded view of who the 75-year-old woman was today.
That's fascinating that they would tell you their deepest secrets.
And they just came out with it. It wasn't even like I prodded them. It was, and I asked them a simple question. If you could be 29 for a day, what would you do? And these women, it's almost like their eyes just opened, like I could actually grant them this wish. And they just came out with these things that they would do.
So you told them, of course, that you were doing research for a book, I assume.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And were these women that you knew, or were they a variety of women?
Some of them that I knew, some of them that I grew up with. And then I asked friends, if I could speak to their mothers or their grandmothers and just basically ask them these questions. So it was really a varied bunch, but I asked about 15 women. And that's really how I got to get to the main character.
Any shocking responses from you? From them?
Well, when somebody looks at you and they say, I never would have married my husband,
yeah.
And this was one particular woman, and the husband was in the next room.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and then we went back into dinner, and I didn't really know this woman, but we went back into dinner, and there she was saying, to her husband, do you want more, of this? Have some vegetables? Do you want something to drink? And I sort of, and everybody around me was very calm and didn't know what was going on, but I was a little freaked out about it.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now, your books seem to touch on the element of magic, and why do you choose to inject these magical situations into real life?
Because I can.
Yeah.
Because using your imagination. Why just tell a straight story? What if I, and only in book form or movie form, hopefully, that we could really create the idea of granting a wish to a person to be young again, or to, like in the book, have a 25-year-old granddaughter spend the day with her grandmother when they're around the same age.
Right.
I mean, what an amazing idea, what an amazing dream that would be. I know I would want to do it.
Well, certainly there have been several movies made about it. In fact, it was funny because this past week I was kind of clicking around on TV and the movie 17 came on. And I thought about you and thought, well, that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what Adena does with her story. And I think there is something fun about that readers and moviegoers like. Now, 29 does hinge on the main character's regrets about the way she lived her life. That's Ellie, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I guess I have to ask you this question.
Yeah.
Have regrets been a force in your own life, or is this just something that you think about for your novels?
I can't say. I'm less than half of Ellie's age, and I can't say that the regrets that I have would be anything like Ellie's.
Right.
It's interesting coming from a different generation where my mother, who is a part of the women's movement, said to me, you can go out and get a job and you can get married and you can have children and do all of those things at the same time. But for me, I needed to make something of myself before I got married and before I started a family. And I didn't get married until I was 38 years old, until later and a little later. But it was until I could get, my life and know who I was. But it was during that time that there were so many regrets. Why, I am alone, I'm single. Why didn't I, get married, and why didn't I do it all together? And now that everything has sort of come into place for me, I thank goodness that I did what I did. That I now know who I am in my marriage separately.
Right. And regrets, I think you can spend your whole life regretting something. I mean,
Sure.
I think that's pretty normal, but certainly I think it was a great thing for you to do, to get yourself knowing who you were as a person and then going on from there. Now, I do want to mention, for those of you just tuning in, I'm talking to Adena Halpern about her fun novel, 29, from Touchstone, a division of Simon & Schuster. And I want to let you know, listeners, that if you send me an email at jbshow22@gmail.com. I will do a random drawing for this segment to send you a free copy of Adena's fun book. Now, Adena, which woman character are you most like in your book, and why do you think you're like her?
Well, I'll tell you, this was the first book this is my third book, and I really set out to make sure that none of the characters were anything like myself or my mother or my grandmother. But I would have to say that when I was writing it, the 55-year-old character, who is nothing like me, she's angry, she's cynical, and as I was writing it, though, I wanted to figure out why she was this way. And what it came down to was that she was always trying to please her mother. Even though she was 55 years old and her mother was, 75, she was still trying to do this. And it's not that I'm always trying to please my mother in my life, but certainly there's an aspect that I always want her to be proud and what have you. And when I started to write that, I thought, oh my gosh, that's me. So it's not exactly me, but it was something that when I was writing it, I certainly thought that this is coming from a place that I know something about.
Sure, and I would imagine that it's tough for a writer to totally separate themselves from their writing because you are a writer and aspects of yourself are bound to come out whether you realize it or not. But I think it was great that you did that.
Oh, definitely. And as a writer, of people who know me, no matter what I say or how much I say it's not me, they always say, oh, no, it's you. That part is you. So
yeah. Well, and that's the other fun of being a writer. Why not put parts of yourself in the book? You own it. Now, are you from Philadelphia originally?
Yes, I'm born and raised in Philadelphia, and I live in Los Angeles now.
Well, the city of Philadelphia, of course, it takes place in Philly. Was there a particular reason why you chose to make Philadelphia the setting?
I am a product. I'm a fourth generation Philadelphian, though I said it, as I said, I live in Los Angeles now. And a big part of that was that I wanted to set it there was because the generations of my family that everybody knows in Philadelphia was somewhat like the Jerome family that's in the book. And so when you were going back to when you were asking me how much of myself is in the book, to be a part of a community where everybody knows you and knows your mother and knows your grandmother and knows your life history certainly plays a big part in 29. And that's why I really wanted to set it there. And also more as a love letter to Philadelphia, to where I grew up and to what I know and to what I really love.
Yeah, now very quickly, the women in this novel have a complicated relationship with each other. What's the message you want readers to take from this novel and that relationship?
I think that the main thing that I want them to take is that we shouldn't always look at our mothers and our grandmothers as simply our mothers and our grandmothers. They are people, and they have dreams, and they have regrets. And, sometimes we tend to forget that. And if we could all just look at each other, not just for who we think they are, but to really know who they are, it can really be a spectacular thing.
Well, absolutely. What's next for you, Adena?
Next, I have a book coming out next summer, which is a love story, but as with all my books, as you were saying, that there's a bit of fantasy to it. Mm-hmm. It's a love story with a twist, so I hope people will enjoy that.
Oh, can you give us a little hint?
Well...
a little tiny hint about what the twist might be?
Let's put it this way. A lot of women in their lives who think that they have bad luck with men, well, what if there was really a curse put on your life? That you did have bad luck, and there was a reason for it. And so that's the journey that I wanted to take next.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Now, do you know when the 10 Best Days of My Life, is that in production now or just starting?
It's just the script is being written right now. And as you were saying, Amy Adams is set to star in it.
And that must be exciting for you.
Well, the craziest thing about it was that when I was writing the book, I actually had Amy in mind as the character.
Well, that's magic.
Yeah, exactly. And for somebody who writes books about magic and fantasy, it was unbelievable for me. And I had nothing to do with her receiving the book and liking the book and wanting to do the role. So that was pretty incredible for me.
Who's going to be the director on it? Do you know?
His name is Sean Levy, who is a very fine director, who directed the Night at the Museum movies. He just directed a movie called Date Night with Tina Fey and Steve Carell. And he's doing a movie right now called Real Steel with Hugh Jackman.
Well,
so hopefully 10 Best Days of My Life is up next.
Yeah. He sounds like a terrific director for your movie based on what he's done before.
That, and he is, 10 Best Days deals with a father-daughter relationship, and Sean has 3 daughters. So I think that's why he really connected to the idea of the book.
Well, that is great. And Adena, we've covered an awful lot, but we are out of time, and I'm going to have to say goodbye. I'm going to look forward to the movie and hope you come back with your next book.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you.